make rich his treasure. How great the pain of searing loss! The Father turns his face away, as wounds which mar the chosen one bring many sons to glory. Behold the man upon a cross, my sin upon his shoulders. Ashamed I hear my mocking voice call out among the scoffers. It was my sin that held him there until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything, no gifts, no power, no wisdom, but I will boast in Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from his reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: his wounds have paid my ransom.
Leonardo da Vinci visited the city of Milan in 1493. And while he was there, the Dominican monks asked him if he would paint for them a fresco, which we know as the Lord's Supper. Now, he had a lot of talent, but apparently was a slow worker. And this brought a reprimand from the prior of the monastery. And Michelangelo responded that he was having a difficult time trying to visualize the face of someone that would betray Jesus Christ. But sort of sarcastically, he said he would be willing to use the prior as a model. You may know, if you've heard the story before, but it's indicated that over the decade or so that it took to paint this, that whether the story is true or not, it's purported to be true, that finally Michelangelo chose a model to do the face of Judas, which supposedly had been the same model he used for the face of Christ. But in that interim period, a life of dissipation and sin had so changed his face. They ended up using the same model for both. But Michelangelo does something in this picture that broke with the artistic traditions of his day. Because in all the religious art, whenever they depicted the disciples, Judas is depicted separate, standing aside or sitting aside from the other 11. But Michelangelo brings them all together in this one scene. And he picks the moment when Jesus sort of shocks the disciples. And he makes the statement that one of you will betray me. And in this event, he shows the human emotion and the tenseness of that moment. And so I want you to come back with us as we reenact Da Vinci's Last Supper. And I want you to imagine, as the participants lead out, what would have been in their minds that instant when Jesus said those words, one of you betrayed me. And they processed it with shock and with the emotion of whether it would have been them. So let's begin with the gospel record. It was the first day of unleavened bread when they killed the Passover lamb. His disciples said to him, "Where do you want us to go and make preparation for you to eat the Passover?" So he sent two of his disciples, telling them, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. Say to the owner of the house that he enters, 'The teacher asks, where is my guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there." The disciples left and went into the city and found things just as Jesus had said they would be. So they prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus arrived with the 12. Now, as they sat and ate, Jesus was very troubled.
Fellas, y'all settle down just a minute. I tell you the truth, tonight, one of you will betray me.
My name is Nathaniel, although some call me Bartholomew. I, like some of the others, am also a fisherman. I was a disciple of John the Baptizer. It was Philip, my friend, who came to me one day and said, "Come, we have found him of whom the prophets Moses and the law wrote about, Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." I can still remember the question I posed to Philip that day. What good can come out of Nazareth? I said it not in scorn, but such an inconsequential city such as that, and those of us that know the byways and alleyways, wondered why God would allow his anointed to be in the midst of such a place. But Philip insisted. He said, "Come, meet him." As I approached the master, he looked at me and said, "Now here is an Israelite in whom there is no guile." I said, "Master, how do you know me?" He said, "I saw you before Philip called you while you were under the fig tree." Now in my country, working mothers in the field would place their babes under the shelter of a fig tree. Its large leaves would shelter the babe from the hot rays of the sun. What the master was telling me was he knew me since the day I was born. It was then and there that I confessed my faith and said, "Lord, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel." Since that time, I've been a faithful disciple and chosen apostle. But yet, when Jesus is about to change the Passover, he says that one of us is to betray him. How can that be of us that are his elected ones? I keep thinking to myself, Lord, is it I?
name is Matthew. I was a tax collector before someone came to me named Jesus, says, "Follow me." And I rose up with excitement and everything, and I followed him. That day, I gave him a feast that he will remember. Oh, it was an exciting day. But when we all met in the room, he said a word that astounds me. He says, "Someone's going to betray me." And I'm thinking, it has to be me. I have people that hate me because I used to take their taxes. I used to take their money. But, Lord, seriously, is it me?
My name is James, but since there are many men with the same name, they call me James the Little or James the Lesser, being of lesser size than many men with the same name. Since my father's name is Alphaeus, I'm also known as James, son of Alphaeus. I remember the day I first saw the Master. I was walking down the road near where John was baptizing, and I heard a commotion. Being curious, I turned aside to see what was going on. I saw Jesus asking John to baptize him. John refused, but Jesus insisted. As they were coming up out of the water, the heavens opened up. Beautiful. The Holy Spirit descended in the form of a dove and lit on Jesus. And we heard this tremendous voice coming out of the heavens, saying, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." He chose me to be one of his 12 disciples. And since that day, I have walked with him, I have talked with him, stayed with him, prayed with him, trying to learn everything I could about him and his heavenly Father. And now they tell us one of us is to be betrayed. And I ask myself, Lord, is it I?
My name is also James. I followed Jesus with my brother John. That was around 3 years ago. I still remember when Jesus called us. We were tending our nets by the Sea of Galilee with our father Zebedee. It was an honor to have Jesus call us to follow him. What was even more amazing was that he picked John and I to be among his 12 apostles. Now, as you can imagine, our mother was really proud as well. And she insisted that we press the issue of Jesus, that he would let us be among his top 2 in his kingdom. And I have to confess, I really liked the idea. And so, just a week ago, on the way up to Jerusalem, my brother and I approached Jesus and said, "Lord, could you make it so that we could sit at your right hand and at your left when you come into your kingdom?" Well, Jesus just looked at us and said, "You don't know what you're asking for." And then he said, "Can you drink of the cup that I'm going to drink? Can you be baptized with the baptism that I'm going to suffer?" And of course, not really knowing what he was talking about, we said, "Yes, we can." And he looked at us again with those tender eyes. And he said, "You will drink what I will drink. You will be baptized with the baptism that I will suffer. But it's not up to me whether or not you sit at my right hand or at my left. That is up to my Father in heaven." Well, after this took place, the rest of the disciples found out, and we all started bickering and arguing about who was going to be first in the kingdom. And Jesus reminded us that if we want to be first in his kingdom, we have to be last. If we want to be the greatest, we have to serve others. And he demonstrated that to us here in the upper room by getting down on his hands and knees and washing our feet. And now, Jesus is talking about one of us, one of the 12, betraying him. I wonder who could it be? I look around and I see all of these fine, faithful disciples, and I wonder, with my ambitions and my desire to be the greatest, I wonder if it could possibly be me. Lord, is it I?